Good evening. I'm Gary Christenson, Mayor of Malden, and I'd like to welcome you to our weekly update relative to COVID-19. Tonight we're joined by Maria Tamagna, the city's lead nurse here in our community, also by someone that you know and who's been on and who's been with us every step of the way, our State Senator Jason Lewis. And then we have remotely tonight Alex Pratt, our Community Development Director, who is going to talk to you about rental assistance and our small business program. We just took some steps this week that I think the community will be interested in hearing tonight. Before we get into the program, we do want to take an opportunity to say thank you, as always, to our community partner, Malden Access Television, for working with us to bring you this evening's show. Also want to take a moment to wish Maria Tamagna and all of our nurses here in Malden happy Nurses Appreciation Day, well deserved, as you can imagine. And it was great to have our City Council President, Jadine Seeker, and I come down and spend a few minutes to hear how they're doing, and I think you'll be impressed with the work that has been happening down at 110 Pleasant Street. Just a couple of quick updates. Ms. Tamagna will get into where we are with the numbers. But for me, I just wanted to let you know, which I think you already do, that Cambridge Health Alliance now has a testing site open at 195 Canal Street. And it's only by appointment, so if you are interested, we do have more information on our website, cityofmalden.org. We are now accepting proposals for contractors to work with us to run the rental assistance program, which again, Mr. Pratt will talk about this evening. Our school superintendent, John O'Terry, announced kindergarten registration is open and it can be completed online, www.maldenps.org. And then today, as you probably all know, Governor Baker in the state is now requiring residents to wear a face covering or mask in public places where maintaining proper social distancing is not possible. Just a few other updates because I want to get to our panelists. Cornucopia Foods at 61 Pleasant Street, who provided today's lunch for our nurses, is now offering grocery shopping in addition to delivery of their home-cooked meals. Walgreens is now offering blue bags from their drive-through window. I should probably should have left this bullet off. Crying Tiger at 114 Ferry Street has reopened for delivery and takeout, as has District Kitchen. They are open as well. So without further ado, we also just want to make sure Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. If you are interested or you're in need of help, you can volunteer, or if you need help, 339-224-4842. And then we also found out that our transportation provider at the Senior Center, SCM Community Transportation, is continuing to do doctor's appointments and shopping for our seniors. It's a free service, and if you are in need, 617-625-1191. So I think that's about it. I now want to get to our panelists and, most importantly, to your questions. So let's get a brief introduction from Ms. Tamagna. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
So we've been very busy, as you can imagine. Caseload of positive COVID-19 is up to 868 cases.
Okay.
That being said, we are about 5 to 6 of the school nurses coming in on a regular basis.
And you said that's made all the difference in
It
the
has
world.
made all the difference in the world. Patty Tremendozzi, the school nurse supervisor, was instrumental with John O'Terry and Chris Webb, the director of the Board of Health, in getting the union to sanction it and have the nurses come in. It's a great system. We stagger the nurses. They come in 4 hours at a time. Social distancing, sanitizing the desks in between. I have to say that the thing that impresses me about the Malden population is, for the most part, most of the residents are really good about trying to be very helpful in answering all the questions.
Okay.
We start off with a little introduction saying what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, and basically what we're trying to accomplish is where this is a new virus is trying to gather as much data as we can about when their symptoms started, what they were feeling, how long they lasted, what their highest temperature was, and get all that information on a piece of paper, and then get that information into the MAVEN system, which is the Massachusetts State computer system.
Mm-hmm.
Once that information is in the computer system, it then is goes into the CDC.
Right.
And so what the hopes are is that that information will then be disseminated, and maybe we can find something that is that will give us some answers. You know, what population is most vulnerable? We do know that elderly are, you know, most vulnerable. But you know, is there any other you know, things that are similar? You know, is there one population that's more at risk than another? Are there any other similarities that could maybe alert us sooner?
Okay.
We've already learned that, you know, it's not, we don't have to look back 14 days. It's really 2 days prior to when the symptoms onset that somebody is the most contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little less of a problem in the investigation. You know, some people are still very hesitant to say who they've been in contact with. And we're really not sure why that is. You know, that nobody gets in trouble for being for where they work.
If someone had questions about what's going on, what's the phone number and email, best way to reach you?
So mtamagna@cityofmalden.org.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the way the phones are working, it's just a hit or miss if it's going to work. A lot of the people working remotely at City Hall, the phones are being forwarded
to different... What's the main number then? 7049?
Yeah.
Yeah. 781.
781-397.
Okay.
7042 goes directly to my line, or 7049 to the health department.
Okay.
So that it's a hit or miss if they work. I check the emails. They can always email me. I check my email constantly.
So it's mtamagna@cityofmalden.org.
MTAMAGNA.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Let's go to our State Senator Jason Lewis. How are things going up on Beacon Hill?
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It looks like you and I both need a haircut pretty badly.
Yeah, first thing I'm doing. Yeah.
And thank you, Maria, to you and all our nurses for the amazing work you're doing on our behalf. So thank you to all of our healthcare workers and our frontline first responders and everybody. So, Mr. Mayor, for you and the residents, I have three quick updates.
Okay.
The first one, I just want to remind everybody that because of a new law that the legislature passed, Governor Baker signed recently, there is a moratorium in Massachusetts on any evictions or foreclosures during this emergency. So anyone who is having difficulty paying their rent or mortgage payments because of the result of losing their job or other impacts of this crisis, you cannot lose your apartment or your home. So people are protected during the emergency. So just make sure folks know that. Second update is that the state and the federal government have taken really unprecedented steps to expand and strengthen unemployment insurance benefits. So pretty much anybody who's lost their job, been furloughed, had their hours reduced, is an independent contractor who doesn't have the same work that they had before, is self-employed and has seen their income go down, can apply for unemployment insurance benefits. So anybody who thinks they have been impacted by this, they should go ahead and apply online through the State Department of Unemployment Assistance. And we've extended the length of the benefits, the amount of the benefits is increased. So that's really the strongest safety net we have for anybody who's been hurt by the pandemic. So that was the second update. And then the third, wanted folks to know that Governor Baker has created a task force to advise him on how to safely start to reopen more businesses in Massachusetts. And I think they're working hard. I do confess I have some concerns about the representation on that task force. I wish it was a little bit more diverse. But it's very important that anybody who has input that they would like to share with this task force in terms of how we can safely start to reopen different kinds of businesses, different activities. They can certainly share that feedback directly with the task force. They can do that online, or they could just reach out to my office and share that with us, and we will be sure to get that to the governor's task force.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And finally, Alex Pratt remotely is our Community Development Director, and he'll be talking about the Rental Assistance Program.
Thank you, Mayor. So as a lot of the community has been aware, but we're hoping to get the word out more, the Malden Redevelopment Authority, in close collaboration with the City of Malden, has been working to set up a rental assistance program that will be available to anyone who needs assistance, who is a low-income Malden renter who is unable to pay their rent because of the COVID-19 crisis. We know that in Malden, before COVID-19 started, last year, we knew that about 40% of Malden residents were low income, making about half of the area median income. And that of those, a lot of folks were struggling to pay their rent. A lot of folks were spending more than 30% of their monthly income on rent, and that makes them predisposed to eviction or being pushed out. Now, as Senator Lewis mentioned, the legislature has adopted a eviction moratorium. So no evictions should be taking place until 30 days after the governor lifts the state of emergency. So that's probably several months away at the earliest. But when that is in place, it still means that renters still need to be paying their landlords their rent. That eviction moratorium is not a rent moratorium. So folks need to stay up on their rent. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to assist as many low-income households in Malden to make that easier, especially because a lot of folks are out of work. What we are afraid of is whenever we emerge from this crisis and this eviction moratorium being lifted, we will see a flood of evictions being headed to the court. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to help stem that tide. And so we've put together a couple sources of funding. The Community Development Block Grant, we have $500,000 set aside for this program from that fund. And then from the Community Preservation Act, we have $250,000 that we are hoping to receive in a first round. For a $750,000 program total, we're hoping to serve about 300 to 400 households and provide 1 month's rent directly to their landlord. And we're hoping to roll that out very soon. The mayor mentioned we've made progress on that this week. Earlier today, we released our request for proposals, or RFP. Essentially what we're looking for is we're looking for experienced rental assistance providers who help us to partner with us in this program. We do have experience at the MRA working through rental assistance applications and working and managing these programs. What's new about this crisis in particular is the volume and the speed with which we need to turn those around. So in a given year, we might provide between 50 and 100 households with rental assistance through various programs and partners. What we're looking at doing now is assisting between 300 and 400 people as quickly as we can. And so to do that, we want to get an experienced partner, maybe two, depending on the capacity. And that RFP went out today. We're getting bids back early next week, and we'll hope to sign on and have a contract with one of those providers within the following days.
All right, and Mr. Pratt, if someone wanted to reach out and learn more, what's the best way to reach you via email and phone?
Sure. So the best way to learn about the program is on the MRA website, which is maldenredevelopment.com. You will see the program mentioned there, and you can email me. My email is on there. My email is apratt@maldenredevelopment.com. Another way to get involved or to stay tuned is on the city's website. There is a link to sign up for notification if you want to be notified when the applications for the rental assistance program become available. So if you're listening tonight and you say, oh, this is something that could make a big difference to me and my family, you can go onto cityofmalden.org. You can find the rental assistance link, and you can sign up to be notified. And when we release those applications, or those pre-applications, which we're hoping to do next week, we will notify you, and we will send you an email and say, this application is available and you can fill it out.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so we're now at the point of the show which we have added a segment from another show that takes place here at Malden Access Television. It's called Around the Rim, hosted by world premiere Nesta Dudley. And one of the segments is called In the Web, and where he gets to ask a question and you cannot put it off. You have to answer it on the spot. So we're going to do the same without the music that he uses when I'm on his show. But the question I have, and I think other people have, when do you see, based on you're in it every day, pretty much 7 days a week, Do you think we're making progress? And if so, when do you see society returning to some normalcy?
Oh, really? Where's the music?
I know.
I want the music.
Yeah, tough question, but we have to ask it.
That's a really tough question.
But do you think we're making baby steps here, or?
All right, we did.
I mean, before the show, you were saying it's not spiking.
We did touch on this today at lunch a little bit, and so, yeah, we were talking about this before the show, and yeah, it isn't spiking, right? And it isn't going down yet. But it's staying right about the same, and it seems to be doing that across the state.
Okay.
So what do we do with that information, right? And what have we done with the virus? The virus hasn't gone anywhere. That's my concern as a public health official, right? As a public health nurse. What we've done is we've kind of kept it at bay, right? But we haven't come close to herd immunity. We haven't come close to finding a vaccine. And I'm being very,
appreciate that.
Right? So no matter what we do, how we reintroduce opening stuff, we're risking reinfection.
So slow roll. We got a ways to go.
So slow and a ways to go.
Okay.
Right? And I don't see it coming back to normalcy anytime soon.
Okay. Senator, in the 3 updates, I noticed you conveniently left one out about the state budget and the impact on Malden. So what is the latest on that?
The reason I left that out, Mr. Mayor, it's grim news, and I know you don't like that kind of news. So, unfortunately, the impact that the virus is having in terms of people being out of work, in terms of small businesses being closed, they're obviously not paying the same sales taxes and meals taxes, as you know, and people's income taxes. So the state budget, is being very significantly impacted. The estimates are anywhere between $4 to $6 billion less revenue for the state in the next fiscal year starting July 1st. So that's very bad news, of course. That's probably even worse than the last recession. Now, there is some good news. The state has a healthy rainy day fund. We've been setting aside money over the last decade in our savings account, essentially. So we are going to obviously tap that. And then the big unknown right now is how much money can we count on from the feds. Our congressional delegation, certainly Congresswoman Clark and Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey, are fighting for another federal stimulus bill, and they have said that funding for states and cities is a top priority. Okay. So we really appreciate that, and we're very hopeful they will get that through Congress, and that money will be available to the state to help balance our budget, which means more state aid, more education aid for Malden, and also hopeful some of that money will flow directly to Malden as well. Okay. That we know is going to be very important.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Pratt.
Yes, sir.
If you had to guess, when do you think we will touch our first family with help, assistance? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? What do you think?
I think we're probably looking at the end of May, and the reason for that is we want to make sure that we have an equitable process for everyone to apply. What we've seen in communities where there are first come, first serve programs is that a lot of people get left out. So we are operating right now on the assumption that we will have a 10-day period where people can apply for this program. Assuming we won't have enough funds to help everyone who applies, we will then conduct a lottery. And then the housing providers will work with those folks who are selected in the lottery to make sure that they can get the documentation that they need to us so that we can provide that funding. Obviously, we're moving as quickly as we can. We are racing as quickly as possible. Fortunately, the senator has bought us some time with that evictions moratorium. We know that people still need to be paying their rent, but we at least, people aren't going to be being evicted as we're rolling this program out. And we are hoping to begin that 10-day period at some point next week.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we're now at the point, the most important point is to hear from the community. So let's take some questions. And we have with us Ron Cochran, our communications director from the city, along with our chief of staff, Maria Louise. So let's get to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as always, we just want to remind folks of the different channels that are available for you to ask your questions during this evening's panel. First is on our Facebook account, which is facebook.com/City of Malden. You can ask a question right in the thread, or you can private message the question. We're also looking out on the YouTube stream for Malden Access Television for questions there. And then lastly, of course, you can contact the studio and call in live with a phone call. We do have somebody right now who's called in ahead of time and has been patiently waiting on hold. So we're going to put Joan through to the panel. Joan, go ahead. You are on the air with the panel.
Good evening, Joan.
Good evening, Mayor. I want to thank you all for being there again tonight.
Sure.
It's been very, very helpful. I just recently lost a loved one to this virus, and I was wondering if Maria could explain a little bit more about what actually is the difference between the term coronavirus, COVID-19, because they have been used interchangeable. Okay. And I would appreciate, your help with that. Thank you.
We're very sorry, Joan. Let's go to Mr. Magno.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Joan.
Thank
so
you.
The terms are interchangeable. When it first was, when we first just heard about the novel coronavirus, it was referred to as the coronavirus, and then it was renamed COVID-19. The 19 stood for the year 2019, when the first cases were
Detected.
discovered or diagnosed in Wuhan, China. Coronavirus itself is not new. This strain of corona is new. It's no different than the corona. It's just been called COVID-19 for a virus.
Okay, does that answer it, Joan?
Coronavirus,
yes, thank
COVID-19.
you very much.
All right.
And can you say a little bit more about the pandemic? Can you explain that? Sure.
So pandemic, when it reaches a certain number in a certain area, an epidemic becomes then a pandemic. So
I see.
It a certain and I honestly
Threshold.
I couldn't tell you the number or the area, but when it reaches a certain global threshold, it's called then a pandemic as opposed to an epidemic.
I think that was officially declared by the World
Health Organization.
World Health
Organization, exactly. Thank you, Senator.
A couple months ago, yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
Joan.
you very much.
Hang in.
All right. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
And we do want to remind folks at home that actually information such as that, as well as the links that were referenced by Alex Pratt, and just about everything related to this pandemic and to our response is located on our website at cityofmalden.org/coronavirus. But knowing that it has two names, I have two short URLs to get there. So you can go cityofmalden.org/COVID-19 or cityofmalden.org/coronavirus. We have links there to CDC, to the Department of Public Health for Massachusetts, which shows sort of the macro level of things, but we also have plenty of information that is specific to Malden, including what Mr. Pratt alluded to earlier, which was our interest list on this rental assistance, as well as business loan assistance too. That can be found there. We're going to go ahead now and ask our first question that came in off of Facebook. Susan asks, why she observed that some Malden police officers were not wearing masks, and she was wondering why that requirement was not instituted for them.
Well, do you want to? I could try to answer that. The chief had issued a directive not too long ago that any officer responding to a call would be required to have a mask. That's been in effect pretty much since we knew what we were dealing with. But, on details, I think what Susan may be referring to, that wasn't immediately part of the protocol. And I think the rationale was because they were isolated, they weren't really interacting with anyone as part of the details, but that has since changed as well. In our weekly meeting, which takes place every Tuesday morning, the chief informed us that he has changed that practice, and we've seen that since then. And with the governor's order, it makes the point moot anyway. So, so that's the best explanation I can give you. If you wanted more information, you can reach our police chief, Kevin Molis, at Molis, M-O-L-I-S, at maldenpd.com.
Okay, our next question comes from Cindy. Cindy reached out to us on Facebook, and it's another mask-related question. How are we going to make masks available for everyone, especially those who cannot maintain that social distancing and have to be in public, but are challenged with, I think we can all identify with this, shortage of supplies? Where can she find them?
Two bits of advice. One is Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and I'll give that phone number one more time, which is 617-62, no, strike that, 339-224-4842. 339-224-4842. Another option would be Glenn Cronin, who's our Emergency Management Director. He can be reached at Cronin, C-R-O-N-I-N, at maldenpd.com. We're now going to go to Mr. Magno, I think has a little bit more advice on what people can do short of a mask.
Sure. So the governor's advisory was for mask or face covering.
Right.
So face coverings could be a bandana, a scarf, anything that, just, what's the word I'm trying to say, for respiration, to just stop your respiration. It doesn't necessarily have to be a surgical mask. And it doesn't need to be when you can safely social distance. The other thing is, Glenn Cronin will have the masks. We do have, I think the last count was about 1,400 available, for people with, at-risk population, elderly, the more vulnerable that need more than just the scarf covering.
Right.
So we do have those, and you can reach out to us, and we will get them to you from the emergency management people. And we do have more coming. It's just a matter of getting them.
Okay.
So so reach out, and we will have them, and we can't get them out to every individual. Certainly the young kids can do with the bandanas.
So Mr. Cochran, if you can again reiterate those contact numbers to Cindy, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so we do want to also point out the thank you to MATV too, because they're putting that contact number from Malden Neighbors in the lower third graphic several times this evening. So,
okay.
But we'll also reach out to Cindy as well. The next question comes from Jason. Jason reached out to us on Facebook in a message and asked, is there a possibility that beer and soda cans, I'm assuming probably talking about redemption of that, or just recycling in general. The concern here is that the possibility of saliva, which could contain the virus, is thinking, shouldn't those be incinerated and help keep the JRM recycle collection workers safer by doing so?
Would you have any comments on that?
I think it's a good question. I'd have to probably look into it a little more on, what the implications are.
So can we get Jason's contact info, Mr. Cochran, and maybe we can have him speak with Mr. Magna tomorrow or on Friday?
Yep, I will leave her direct dial number to Jason.
Mr. Magna was saying that's a pretty good question. So we want to take a little bit of time to look into it.
I'd have to see what they're doing, what they're doing for precautions.
Talk with Mr. Knox, yeah. I know they're all masked up.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question comes from Prisco. Prisco asks, where can we read about the renter program details for the CPA proposal, Community Preservation Act proposal? And I did clarify his question isn't so much about the program itself, but rather about the specific presentation to the Community Preservation Committee.
Yep. Mr. Pratt, do you want to respond?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So on the maldenredevelopment.com website, we have posted a notice about how we plan to use these funds and how they, our rationale for the program, as well as how we intend to operate. That will go into detail, and it shows a copy of the memo that the mayor sent to the council in April proposing this program, as well as the MRA's presentation supporting it. As for the MRA's proposal to the CPC, we can put that on the MRA website as well, so that information is available. It should also be available on the CPC website.
All right, can you check the CPC website, Mr. Pratt, after the show? And if it's not there, can you just ask the chairperson to see if we can get it up?
Absolutely.
And on your end, when can you have our proposal online and available?
Should be first thing tomorrow morning.
All right. So let's have Mr. Cochran, if you can ask Prisco to hold on until tomorrow. We'll put our proposal on our end, and then we'll ask CPC to put it up on theirs as well. If Prisco has any questions, one more time, Mr. Pratt, how can he reach you?
Pratt@maldenredevelopment.com.
Okay.
And he has actually since reached out and discovered that it was on the Malden redevelopment website. So literally, as we were speaking, I think he discovered that on his own, but we still will circle back on that.
Okay.
Staying in line with Mr. Pratt on the assistance programs, but let's flip it over to the business assistance. Another question is asked, could you better describe what is being offered for the business assistance program?
Sure. So we have set aside $300,000 in community development block grant funds for the small business assistance program. Because there's so much money coming from the federal government that's been kind of bottlenecked and certain businesses are more able to access it than others, we wanted to target our first $100,000 that we have towards small businesses that we know are going to have a really difficult time getting these funds. And then we're holding the remaining $200,000 to see, as the situation develops, which types of businesses are hurting the most and where can we make the most difference versus what federal and state resources might be available. So the first $100,000 is geared towards businesses with 5 or fewer full-time employees. That means full-time equivalent. So if a business owner has 7 or 8 people working for him or her and has, they're working for 15 or 20 hours a week, they may still be able to qualify. The type of assistance that we'll provide will be a one-time grant of up to $10,000 per business. So we're hoping to serve between 10, maybe 15 businesses in this first round. We know that's a limited supply, but we are trying to leverage as much money as we have as possible to make the most difference. So the businesses that'll be eligible will be what we call micro enterprises, these 5 full-time employees or fewer, and the business owner or most of the employees will need to be low or moderate income. And that information, those income limits, as well as a sign-up form, is available on the City of Malden website.
And Mr. Cochran, if you want, let the person asking the question know that this has been done in conjunction with the Malden Chamber of Commerce.
Will do.
And Mr. Mayor,
Senator Lewis just wants to add.
And I think it's terrific that, let me just say right at the outset, it's terrific that the city, under your leadership, is providing assistance directly for small businesses and for renters as well. That's really a huge lifeline. I do want to remind folks as well that the federal loan programs and forgivable loans for small businesses has been recapitalized. So the first round ran out because there was so much demand across the country, but Congress did appropriate more money. So for small businesses in the city that are still thinking about it, I would encourage them to go ahead and apply for one of those loan programs through a local bank. The Paycheck Protection Program is an option, or through the SBA. You can apply for an economic injury disaster loan, which are very, very low interest loans.
Okay.
And those programs are now essentially re-available or have been reopened for small businesses.
Okay, and we do want to, just really quick, we can show some of the folks at home what we have up here on screen, which is our coronavirus page. And these are all the variety of things that are available. And in particular, what's been talked about frequently tonight are both these rental assistance programs as well as business assistance. And that would be under this resources to help section as you see it. Both of these, I won't click through, but they essentially take you to a form. And just to be clear, this is not the application itself, but rather this is the interest list. So to make it easy on our residents so they don't have to constantly check back, we've been taking emails and phone numbers for folks so that as soon as it does come online, we reach back out to them and let them know, in fact, that the programs are now available. Okay, so we're going to roll right along here. We do have more and more questions coming in. The next question is for Senator Lewis. Is there legislation that will help people get tested without a copay?
Great question. And my understanding is that is true already. That that was something we did very early on when the pandemic hit. That requires anybody who needs to get tested for the virus or also treatment. The standard copay would be waived.
Okay.
So I believe that's already in place.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And our next question is from a caller, Patty. Go ahead. You are on the air with the panel.
Hi, Patty.
Yes. Hi, sir. Chris Airing.
How you doing?
Not that good. But what I want to ask you, was on the news today that all the grocery stores, Stop and Shop, there's a fear of there be a shortage of no more food on the shelves. The same, when I go by the same people, all the way down, the lines of so long, all the way down to the parking lot. And it seems like the same people, go back and forth shopping.
Let's see if we can find that. Have we heard that there could be a shortage, food-wise? You want to?
Yeah, I mean, there have, as we all know, there've been times when you are at a certain supermarket and there may have been a shortage at that time. But in general, we've been paying very close attention to our food supply chains, and they've been, pretty holding up pretty well. One area we've had some challenges is with meat,
right.
And that relates to meat packing plants, mostly in the Midwest and the South, where there was some outbreaks of the virus in these meat packing plants, so they've had to close. But my understanding is they're starting to reopen, with the appropriate safety protocols for the workers. So I think as that happens, we'll probably see some of those temporary shortages alleviated.
Okay. Same on your end?
Yeah.
You haven't heard or seen?
No, I mean, I think in the beginning there was a lot of concern, but I think people are starting to be a little more,
right,
other than the meat that I just heard about that, but that's kind of working itself out.
And we know the people shipping it are determined to get it here.
Yeah.
That's right. They're working super hard, and you think about it, it's a big challenge because, for all the supplies that were going to restaurants before and schools, all of that basically stopped. So our food manufacturers and our farmers and our suppliers all had to kind of shift. So that has taken, but I think they've done a good job of kind of figuring that out. So it's not perfect. There are some shortages sometimes, but they are working their way.
Yeah.
Working
I think you'll be okay, Patty. We haven't seen or heard anything on our end.
I know, but it was on the news. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, but nothing that we've seen behind the scenes.
Yeah, I have. Well, my neighbor, Margaret Annapone, she is a nervous wreck over this.
Yeah.
It is scary.
No, it is. And have her call us if there's anything that we can do to help calm her down.
Right.
Again, the phone number is 781
397
7042.
52.
7052, Patty.
And also we should mention
781 397 7052.
052.
And also, Patty, if you or anyone you know needs help with food and with groceries, Bread of Life here in Malden is doing a phenomenal job, and volunteers are making deliveries.
And Patty, we're gonna have Bread of Life on next week's show.
Great.
Oh yeah.
So Gabriella Snyder-Stelmach will be here in studio. All right.
Okay.
And for Patty's benefit as well, the article that just recently came out was specifically referencing the meat shortage. So that I think should help appease that. I just looked that up as you were speaking. So Patty, I think it was just the meat shortage. I've confirmed that with what you saw on the news. That's what they were addressing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question, it's a two-part question. It's from Marie. And Marie first asks, what advice do you have for asthmatic people for a mask? She says that it's really difficult for her to breathe through a mask sometimes.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your advice there?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of the medical ones are tight and difficult to breathe through. Some of the looser fitting ones work better for people with asthma. I know a lot of people feel like they just can't breathe when they have one on. You know, you might do better off with a bandana. Of course, if you have asthma, you are more vulnerable to, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you can find one of the medical masks that are just like a surgical mask, I think that would probably be more comfortable for you. If not, I would just try some different facial coverings until you can find one that you're comfortable with. I really don't know how else. And then how else to advise you. The other thing is, you know, just try not to go out unless you really absolutely have to. It's just you're an at-risk population if you have asthma.
Okay.
Marie does have a second question.
Okay.
First, she says, thank you, Senator Lewis, for looking into EBT for online food shopping. And she's wondering if there was an update.
Okay, good question.
Yes, that's a good question, and I'm sorry I don't have the latest update on that. I know that's been discussed. It requires approval from the United States Department of Agriculture because they operate the EBT program, which is our food program, the SNAP benefits. And I know that's been an ask, so we'll have to get back to. Maybe we can get contact information.
Can you leave a phone number or to call your office?
Certainly, you could call us at 617-722-1206, and that's at the State House. We are working remotely, but if you leave a message, we'll get right back to you, and we can see what the latest status on that is. But it's definitely, we know that would help a lot of people who are trying to use their SNAP benefits, to purchase online.
All right, so Marie, call the Senator's office tomorrow. We'll see if we can get you an update on it.
We've gone ahead and left that phone number for her right in Facebook, so she should be able to call from there. The next question, right back, I think, with Senator Lewis on this one, and the person's concern is with hospital capacity. It hasn't been talked about much, but what is capacity right now like for hospitals, especially around the Malden area?
Marie, you can speak to this too, but my understanding is that we're in a pretty good shape. Our hospitals in this area in particular did a great job preparing for the surge. They added additional beds, so they added additional ICU capacity, and because of all the good social distancing that everyone's been doing and wearing masks, taking precautions, we fortunately have not seen as many folks having to be hospitalized and go into the ICU. So the capacity is in actually quite good shape, but we need to make sure it stays that way. And one concern that we do have, I should raise, is our hospitals have seen a significant decline in people being admitted for non-COVID reasons, for strokes, heart attacks, mental illness issues, and that is a concern because those haven't gone away.
Yeah.
So we do want to get the message out to people, and the governor has been doing this as well in our Department of Public Health, that anybody who needs to be seen by a doctor or go to the emergency room for other medical reasons other than COVID should go. You should definitely contact your doctor, go to a clinic, or go to the hospital if you have a serious health condition. Our hospitals are taking very good precautions to make sure that they're keeping anyone with COVID separate, and so that they minimize any risk of transmission.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer it, Mr. Cochran?
I hope so. That was one of our Facebook questions, so we hope that did satisfy an answer. Next question is, is there any idea what a return to school might look like at this point? Obviously, we're out for the year. this year. I'm assuming the person's talking about September.
Yep. And we talked about this
talked,
just today.
yeah, we did. We
Yep.
did.
What are you hearing and seeing? And
Well, I did hear that a committee is being formed with Mr. O'Terry and you know,
Bunch of
other
officials, yeah.
other administration, Patty Tremendozzi, the school nurse leader, Chris Webb, the health department director. They're all going to put their heads together and figure out. It won't be a normal, I don't think. You know, from what I'm hearing, it's not going to. I don't know for sure. I don't think anybody really knows.
Right.
I think we're all in for a different normal.
yeah.
Yep, and the same thing,
Moving
Mr.
forward.
Mayor, is happening at the state level. The led by the Commissioner of Education, Jeff Riley. He has formed an advisory group with superintendents and teachers and other public health experts. So they are going to be putting together guidance for schools as to sort of how to safely reopen in the fall. We're hoping certainly that we can do that, but as Maria said, it's probably going to look different. We're going to have to take precautions. There may be various steps that schools have to take, and it may look a little different for elementary school than it does for high school.
Yeah.
But definitely everybody's goal would be to obviously to be able to get students as much as possible back in classrooms.
Yeah, but at the urging of the school committee on Monday night, there, as you mentioned, going to be a task force or a committee to start looking at it. It's going to have school committee members, parents, teachers, students.
That's good.
So we'll see what they come up with and what the state comes up with.
Okay, we do want to remind the panel, I think, Mr. Mayor, you're on a hard stop at 8, so we want to try to make sure we leave time for the panelists to wrap up, and we do have a few more questions, and we'd like to get to those.
Okay.
And then I think we'll if anybody would like to call, we'll take our last caller, I think, at this point. And then just to remind folks, we will be doing this, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And you can reach out at any time if you have a question and you can't attend in person. You can certainly send us an email with your question, or you can reach out to us on Facebook. Our email address is info@cityofmalden.org. Okay, and our next question it's another face mask question, and I think what they were indicating was that there were neighboring cities that were offering free masks, and they were just curious, how another city was able to procure those or offer that program, and if that was in the future for us.
I think they're doing it like we are, with donations from residents and different volunteer groups and nonprofit organizations. So again, we have some that if you contact our Board of Health or our emergency management team through Glenn Cronin at gcronin, CRONIN, at maldenpd.com, we can make an arrangement to provide masks. But as far as doing something citywide, we did look at that, but we're not sure it's sustainable because of the the length of how long you can use the masks.
And they're coming in I want to say dribs and drabs. We're trying to obtain them, but they're just not reliably coming in. We might get a case of 100 or 1,000 or whatever it is, and then they're gone.
Right. And as you mentioned, Miriam, the other thing I think that another reason why we haven't done that is because people do have alternative options.
Right, you do have options, and we're not advising for like a mask giveaway, like meet us down at the Salemwood School and we're going to distribute masks. That's what we're trying to avoid, stuff like that. Yeah. So how would we go about it too?
Right.
So we have had some of the inspectors go out and if somebody calls and they need to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever, we've gone to the house and deliver them. Certainly, if that's the case, there are ways of us getting them to you if you need them.
Okay.
And just reach out, send an email. You can call the mayor's office. You can call your counselor. You can call Glenn Cronin. Email me, and we can get them to you if it's necessary. Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to have to cut it short here, Mr. Cochran. Unfortunately, I have a 8 o'clock meeting with the other area mayors on where we are and where we're going. But before I, did want to end, I want to show you something that we've been asked to look at capturing over the past several weeks of something that we hope we never see again. And so Paul and Lisa Hammersley spent time, especially this past weekend, trying to capture some images to show the impact of COVID-19 in and around our community. So to wrap up this week's show, we're now going to present you with this compilation. And we'll see you again next week.
Can anybody hear me? Or am I talking to myself? My mind is running empty in this search for someone else who doesn't look right through me. It's all just static in my head. Can anybody tell me why I'm lonely like a satellite? 'Cause tonight I'm feeling like an astronaut, sending SOS from this tiny box, and I lost all signal when I lifted up. Now I'm stuck out here and the world forgot. Can I please calm down? 'Cause I'm tired of drifting round and round. Can I please calm down? I'm deafened by the silence. Is it something that I've done? I know that there are millions. I can't be the only one who's so disconnected. It's so different in my head. Can anybody tell me why I'm lonely like a satellite? 'Cause tonight I'm feeling like an astronaut, sending SOS from this tiny box, and I lost all signal when I lifted up. Now I'm stuck out here and the world forgot. Can I please calm down? 'Cause I'm tired of drifting round and round. Can I please calm down? Now I lie awake and scream in the zero gravity, and it's starting to weigh down on me. Whoa, let's abort this mission now. Can I please calm down? So tonight I'm calling all astronauts, all the lonely people that the world forgot. If you hear my voice, come pick me up. Are you out there? 'Cause you're all I've got. And tonight I'm feeling like an astronaut, sending SOS from this tiny box, and I